Every single client who is coming to her at the moment wants to include crypto as part of their portfolio. I was actually speaking to someone earlier on today who's a specialist in this space. We're increasingly seeing younger people wanting to go down this pathway with their retirement funds. We see the younger generations mature and come through. Very much digital native generations are interested in crypto as an investment asset class.
Welcome to From the Frontlines, Conversations with OKX Singapore. In this series, we speak with leaders shaping the future of digital assets in the world's most dynamic markets. I'm Gracie and I'm your host for today. And today I'm really excited to be joined by Kate Cooper, CEO of OKX Australia. She joined us last year and it's been a really, really exciting time for me to be watching our Australian market go from strength to strength. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks so much, Gracie.
Now, let's start with your background. What led you to OKX and how has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, listen, I'm 25 years into my career, so a few grey hairs, but the last 10 years have been spent in banking. I ran innovation for two of Australia's biggest banks, and that took me into the tokenisation and digital assets space in the last 4 years for National Australia Bank. Fell in love with the technology of blockchain technology and the possibilities that it can open up for the world, really, from an efficiency perspective, a democratisation of finance perspective. And so ended up deciding that this is the area I wanted to pursue full-time in my career. And OKX was a very natural place for me to land because of our focus on really robust risk, legal compliance frameworks, providing that safe, secure foundation for trading, investing, etc. It felt like, even though it maybe is a bit unusual for someone to go from traditional finance to a crypto exchange, it actually feels like a very natural evolution of my career.
Quite a few of our onshore CEOs actually came from a traditional finance background like yourself. And I know that more than one exchange was hoping that you would be joining them to lead the market. So we're very, very happy to have you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I feel very happy that I have found my home at OKX. Feels like a family.
I think it's quite clear how well and deeply you understand the Australian market in every single client segment. The one that's particularly unique to Australia, and we've been following with some interest on our side as well, are the self-managed super funds. Can you share a little bit about them, what their needs are, and what your plans are for serving that segment?
Yeah, so the self-managed superannuation fund sector is part of the broader superannuation fund sector, which in every other jurisdiction is called pensions or retirement investing. And Australia, even though we're a country of 26 million, we have the fourth largest capital pool in retirement in the world. And by 2030, we'll have the second largest. So it's this huge capital pool. And there's an increasing trend towards people not just wanting to put their funds with a big industry fund, but actually have a little bit more agency and control over their investment strategies. And that's where self-managed superannuation funds come in. They make up about a quarter of the capital pool, which is over $1 trillion. And we're increasingly seeing younger people wanting to go down this pathway with their retirement funds. So the biggest growth area is 35 to 55-year-old age group. And I was actually speaking to someone earlier on today who's a specialist in this space, and she was saying every single client who is coming to her at the moment wants to include crypto as part of their portfolio.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a very natural evolution that we would look to see if there's a way we can make investing in that sector, in crypto specifically, as safe and secure as possible for that group. The group tends to be more risk-averse than your traditional crypto investor. And so for them, they really value the fact that we're licensed. We have an Australian financial services license in Australia. We hold our assets one-to-one globally and demonstrate that via proof of reserves. And they also are looking for clear tax reporting so that they can keep compliant with what they need to do to hold their fund. So it's a big growth area for us as OKX in Australia, but actually for Australia as a whole. And I think it's also a really interesting blueprint for retirement investing globally. We saw Trump change the regulation around 401k investing in the US. I think that there's a lot that OKX globally can learn from what we're managing to do in Australia, especially as we see the younger generations mature and come through. Very much digital native generations are interested in crypto as an investment asset class.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very interesting area of potential that we're all watching very closely.
Yeah.
And we're very glad you're taking the lead on this so that we can learn from you in Australia.
Yeah, great.
Outside of this one interesting client segment that you're trying to break into, I know that you're also trying to transform the way you and your team work and operate. We had dinner the last time you were in Singapore, and I was so fascinated by all the different things that you've been doing and how you've been applying AI into every single area of the work that your team does. And you've been a great advocate for that, not just with your team, but internally with the broader group. You've also been very active on LinkedIn, sharing some of your tips. And I was especially excited to see the AI Chief of Staff. What's his name again?
My Chief of Staff is Sage.
Yes, that was a nice name. Can you talk us through how you see AI transforming the way you and your team work and how you've been actively trying to integrate that into the daily lives of you and your team?
We initiated a project in May called Work Smart. And our goal as a collective team was to increase our productivity by 20%, not by working 20% longer hours, but by getting smarter in the way that we worked. And a key part of that was integrating AI into our workflows. We use ChatGPT as our primary choice of LLM. And I've gradually mastered, for my own productivity gains, the art of how do you build AI agents to do specific elements of tasks that you need them to do. And increasingly, aside from things like diary management, which are very transactional and mechanical, increasingly as LLMs have become more sophisticated in the way that you can interact with them and the way you can tailor the context within which they operate, you can start to have key roles performed on your behalf, like having a chief of staff. So I have built Sage, my chief of staff, in ChatGPT. I basically started with prompts, so really mastered prompt engineering. I share those prompts on LinkedIn for others to build their own solutions. I've been mastering more recently is context engineering, which is not just what you ask your agent to do, but what context you feed it in order to get the answer to be as accurate as possible. Today, I put the questions that we thought we'd cover into Sage, and they were able to help me think about, right, what do I want my answers to be? What does that look like? It's not the end point, just synthesized the thinking that I wanted to do. Helps me fast track to getting a very pointed outcome more quickly.
What else can Sage do?
Sage, anything you see from me on LinkedIn will have gone through Sage. Mm-hmm. I have a drafting desk with my tone of voice very clearly outlined. I also have an AI advisory board, and this isn't just for work, this is also for my personal life. So, for example, I'm very passionate about interior design, and so I have an AI advisory board of the world's top interior designers.
Wow.
And basically, the prompt is, tell me who are the top 10 interior designers in the world. Okay, pick the top 5. Now pretend to be those top 5 based on everything you can find about them online. Give me advice about how I should decorate this room. And you get some thoughtful answers, which, as I say, are not the end outcome, but they fast track your thinking into, new ways, new avenues. Another favourite prompt of mine is, based on your interactions with me over the last week, what are my 5 biggest blind spots?
Wow, that's a good one.
And that just challenges me to iterate, be better, and think about like the things I might be missing.
That's actually really, really clever, the way you're using it. I think most of us just use it in a very basic way of doing basic research and maybe putting together some thoughts, whether for a speech or an email or something, but you've really gone over and beyond.
I've coined, so I'm writing a book at the moment, and it's called Edge, and it's all about how leaders can operate on the edge of technology change. And I've coined a phrase which is executive intelligence engineering, which is how do we as leaders, and it doesn't have to mean you have people reporting into you, we're all executives, but how do we engineer the intelligence that is available to us at our fingertips now? And so it's about not just the intelligence that you get via AI, it's also about the advisory you get, it's about the advice that you get from colleagues, and how do we engineer that to be a really powerful tool for our own personal productivity. And that's been something that I'm continuing to evolve, learn, and as I continue to evolve and learn, I'm sharing as much as I can so others can benefit from that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we should all check out this book that you are going to be compiling. But in the meantime, you are putting out sneak previews, right?
Yes, I'm basically writing the book in the open. And if you saw my first post about the book, you'll see how rough and ready it was. At the time, it felt really polished, but I'm evolving my thinking. I'm getting loads of feedback from leaders around the world. And I feel like it's consistent with what we have to do from a technology perspective to constantly iterate, constantly learn. And so I decided I'm going to write it in the open. I'm going to put my thoughts out there and get feedback and see what resonates, what doesn't. And the AI chief of staff is the number one thing everyone asks about now.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. I've bookmarked it and I'm going to take a look at it after this crazy week or so.
Yes.
From what you're saying, it's very, very clear that to you, it's important to continuously evolve, improve ourselves, challenge ourselves, incorporate feedback, and see what we can do better. And I think that's really what's been driving you down this path, as well as many other paths that I'm sure you've taken in your life. As you bring your team through this journey of improving their productivity, effectiveness, by incorporating AI into their daily processes and workflows, I'm sure there are some people who are a little bit less comfortable with that journey and may not be as fully invested in it as you'd like them to be. So what are some of the challenges that you faced in bringing your team along with you, and how have you managed to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, look, the pace of change will never be this slow again. So we all have to master basically being change makers, which means having agency and control in a world that is constantly in flux. And of course, different team members are comfortable at different levels with the change that we're ongoingly trying to evolve towards. And so some of the things that really, really support them when they're struggling, when they're feeling overwhelmed, which is a very common feeling, I think, in the current day and age, is definitely providing clarity. I also share my threads from ChatGPT so that they can see the process that I've gone through to get to an outcome or an output. And even sometimes I'll write a message on our internal messaging platform, which is called Lark, and I'll then show them how I've landed on that message. And so what I try and do is just lift the hood a little bit, not make it a black box that we don't and can't all master, actually show them that there's absolutely things that they can master. And I think having that transparency really supports people on the change journey.
It really sounds like you are just there with them every single step of the way, recognizing that it can be quite a scary journey, but then you are there to support them on that. And
And I fundamentally believe that even though we're in a technology-driven world, we're the complex piece of the puzzle. We're the ones where our brains operate and come up with these new concepts. And so the more we can spend time and energy investing in the human element of our business, the better outcome we'll have for our customers, the better product we'll deliver. And so for me, that's my number one focus is the team and the talent, as well as the customers and the human element.
I really like the human element that you talked about. From the moment I met you, your personality has come through so clearly. And I think everyone who meets you has that same observation. Speaking of being human, I'd like to talk about something a little bit more personal and maybe a little bit more fun. Can you show our viewers your nails?
Happily. At the moment, my nail design is focused on McLaren. OKX being principal sponsor of McLaren has been really important in terms of our brand awareness, the fact that Oscar has led the way from an Australian point of view.
One of the times I met you, I remember you had a chip embedded in one of your nails. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that chip worked?
Yeah, sure. Normally I do have a chip embedded in my ring finger nail, and it's an NFC chip, which means that if you scan it with your phone, you get my contact details and you get some of my content as well. And it's a really great way of breaking the ice at conferences, but also sharing your contact details without it being printed on a card. And so you can get one of those chips for like $8, and most nail technicians, I believe, will put them into your manicure, and it's super fun.
That's really, really smart. How did you come up with that idea?
Do you know what? I can't remember. I think I read about it somewhere.
Right.
And I just thought that's something different. That's something unique. And yeah, it seems to be kind of catching on. I've had so many people contact me and say, where can I get one from? And it's just online. Just search for it and you'll be sent it for $8.
I'm definitely going to try it. And I think a lot of our viewers might too. So maybe we don't want to give out your trade secret so much. It's been a great pleasure to have you with us, Kate. Thank you so much for spending time with us in what is such a busy week. And that's the end of this episode of From the Frontlines Conversations with OKX Singapore with Kate Cooper this time. Thank you so much, Kate. It's been lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Gracie.
Until next time, see you.